Ne engedjük magunkat megtéveszteni. Háború van, energiaválság, gazdasági válság, meg háborús infláció, és mindez paravánt húz a szemünk elé, paravánt húz közénk, és a gender és a migráció kérdése közé.
I remember hearing something about a doctor in my hometown. There was a rumor that he is gay and that people have heard him. So it's something that stuck with me and didn't really understand why that would happen. Like, why do even people care about that?
Βουδαπέστη, Ιούνιος 2024. Λίγο μετά από τις ευρωεκλογές και το αποτέλεσμα έφερε το ακραία συντηρητικό κόμμα του Βικτόρ Ορμπάν ξανά στην κορφή. Ποιες είναι όμως οι αμφιλεγόμενες πολιτικές του Φιντές σχετικά με τη ΛΟΑΤΚΙ Plus κοινότητα?
The so-called child protection law, I'm sure you heard about that. We don't call it child protection law because it doesn't protect the children. We just call it the propaganda law. It's basically mimicking, or it's very close copy of the 2014 Russian anti-gay law, which was implemented here in Hungary in 2021, 2022. And that is basically, they are trying to fight against gay propaganda, LGBTQ propaganda. So what they're doing is in certain bookstores, if there's any book that mentions homosexuals or the LGBTQ community, you have to put it in a wrap. So they have to wrap the book, basically. It cannot be anywhere near the children's section. And if there are any bookstores that are near churches or schools, you cannot, there are 300 books which are banned, basically. You cannot sell those in these bookstores which are close to schools or churches.
We don't have that kind of law. We have the law on defending the rights of the kids and the parents.
There are a lot of countries who signed a letter and they want to speak.
I responded them immediately.
What did you tell them today?
Please read it.
What did you tell them today?
It's not about homosexuality, it's about the kids and the parents. That's all.
They still criticize it.
Yeah, but it's a Hungarian law.
So you don't have anything to tell your colleagues?
The law? The law is already announced. It's published, it's done.
I'm David Bedő. I'm the parliamentary group leader for Momentum, which is a liberal party here in Hungary. And I'm also the chair of the LGBTQ intergroup in the parliament. It's called For a Diverse Hungary. It consists of 5 parties with 20 members of parliament who participate in the groups.
The 2021 propaganda law is not clear about some things, and that's what they are using a lot in different laws, that they are not really clear about how the wording of the law, so they can interpret it in their own way. My name is Máté Hegedűs. I use they them pronouns in English, but I like this fun fact about Hungarian language that there's no gender pronouns, so people can address me without misgendering. I am an employee and also activist at Budapest Pride.
Here in Hungary, gays cannot adopt children. Well, they can, but they can only adopt with the approval of one of the ministers, so like very high up, and they never do that.
We cannot make a life here. We cannot plan together as a couple here.
Brussels wants to force Hungary to let LGBTQ+ activists into our kindergartens and schools. This is how Prime Minister Viktor Orbán summed up the debate in the European Parliament about Hungary's child protection law.
Since 2021, when the government banned for LGBT organizations to work with children in public schools, they have had to redesign these programs, and schools can only, they do get invitations, but there is always a risk for schools to somehow get in trouble for that. My name is Esther, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a communications officer with Lobby's Lesbian Association.
The Hungarian government thinks that the legislation is strictly about underage children and their protection. The Ministry of Justice wrote, neither the committee in Brussels or any other EU body can tell Hungarians how they want to live and raise their children.
One of the main problems we are facing in Hungary is the 33rd paragraph, which is denying trans and non-binary people exactly of legal gender recognition, a legal name change.
So if you want to change your gender, you cannot do that. I mean, you can have the gender reassignment surgery, but the legal change of your gender cannot be done. So you cannot change your name, and you cannot change your gender on your identification, which is obviously very, very important for trans people. And the other part is that in TV, if there is any what they call homosexual propaganda, and I use quotation marks, obviously, very strong quotation marks, because if you have a same-sex couple kissing, for example, it has to be R-rated, so 18 and over only, and it cannot be shown before, I think, 10 p.m. on a TV, so it only can be after 10.
Now there's this fear of being fined by the National Media Authority, and there are TV channels who wouldn't show our teaser for the Budapest Pride March because the heads of the two main characters are touching. They are not even kissing, but they are touching, and it's a romantic moment between a same-sex couple.
This government has an immense propaganda machine. They approximately fund it with like 500 billion forints every year. They have numerous papers, daily papers, online portals, TVs and everything. And when it comes up as an issue, or when I talk about this matter, then they do write articles how I'm promoting like LGBTQ propaganda, so on, so on.
Keresztül demonstráljam azt, hogy a jelenlegi szankciós propaganda, ami fut a...
The government, they reinforce the idea that being gay is abnormal and that people are free to hurt you for that.
Egyrészt a kommunikációban, tehát például vezető kormánypárti politikusok meglehetősen dehonestáló és kirekesztő megjegyzésekkel és nyilatkozatokkal nehezítik a melegeknek a mindennapjait, elterjesztve egy olyan fajta szemléletet, ami mondjuk összemossa a melegeket a pedofilokkal, vagy volt olyan politikus, aki azt nyilatkozta, hogy a melegek ne gondolják magukat egyenrangúnak. Tehát ez kommunikációs szinten okoz nehézséget, vagy okoz egy olyan közhangulatot, ami aztán a társadalom alsóbb rétegeibe, vagy a szélesebb rétegeibe is mondjuk úgy, hogy lecsorog, vagy... Sziasztok! Horrász András vagyok, 10 éven keresztül katolikus papként dolgoztam, most magánvállalkozóként dolgozom.
Μετά την ψήφιση του νόμου από την κυβέρνηση του Ορμπάν το 2021, η Ευρωπαϊκή Επιτροπή κίνησε νομικές διαδικασίες ενάντια της Ουγγαρίας. Η κατάληξη ήταν η παραπομπή της χώρας στο Ευρωπαϊκό Δικαστήριο τον Ιούλιο του 2022. Η Επιτροπή θεώρησε ότι ο νόμος παραβιάζει τους κανόνες της εσωτερικής αγοράς, τα θεμελιώδη δικαιώματα των ατόμων, ιδίως των ΛΟΑΤΚΙ ατόμων, καθώς και τις αξίες της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Ασχολείται όμως πραγματικά η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση με τα δικαιώματα της ΛΟΑΤΚΙ κοινότητας στην Ουγγαρία?
Currently, the EU hasn't helped a bunch. There is currently an ongoing court case regarding the propaganda law, but unfortunately that is not on a fast track. So it's going to take 3-4 years until the European Court of Justice decides on the matter. If they do decide and they decide to fine Hungary, then the government either has to withdraw the law or pay the fine. It's a lot. But I think that is the first step the European Union took against Hungary, the Hungarian government discriminating against the LGBTQ community.
It seems like a cowardly move to just finance these little, or not so little, but LGBT organizations and let them do the hard work and most of the work. And also, I mean, it's not that easy to get money, to get financial support for the LGBT organization programs. I mean, maybe it could be easier.
Unfortunately, there's no resources through grants from Hungary, so we usually have to rely on international funds and grants, and that's why we are easily labeled as foreign agents from the government. But usually we apply to European funds and other opportunities with other Hungarian organizers or NGOs and international NGOs we meet.
I think my biggest fear as a queer person in Hungary is being abused. Like just not knowing who and when and why is going to hurt me just for being able to tell that I'm not straight.
I just cannot understand that why would people choose violence, and there are still so many stories like people being stopped by the police and asking them to remove rainbow pattern things. So this just shows that how hurtful these new policies and how widely worded, so anyone can understand it in their own way. I always get this question like, why don't you just move away if there are like places in other countries where people are more accepting? But the thing is that I really want to live here on the long run, and I want to be happy here, my family is here, my friends, and that's why I want to stay here and change the system so it's more accepting towards everyone, because I believe that I'm not taking away anything from others if I'm just being myself.
A 2022-es választások óta ez az egyetlen olyan tömörülés, amiben ez az 5 párt együttműködik havi rendszerességgel.
Fideszes és KDNP-s politikusok is?
Nem, ők nincsenek benne.
How do you think that history will remember Viktor Orbán?
That's a very good question. I mean, it really depends. I really hope that 10 or 20 years from now, everyone will look back to this period as a darker period in Hungary, an autocratic leader who used everything in his power to stay in power, discriminate against people, the LGBTQ community, and all other minorities in Hungary. But I guess we will see.